Hey everybody, it's Adam Tereska. I'm underneath the Thunderbird here, Resurrection of Lena, and we are in the middle of pulling off that component right here. This is the fuel pump, and it is clearly gone bad. I cannot get fuel to the engine to run the car, but whenever I put it on spray, like if I'm using starting fluid or something like that, it will run briefly. So we know it's not an ignition problem. Now, because of where I'm at and the way I'm working here, I'm not going to be able to show you me taking this out, but you'll have to wait till I put the new one back on so I can show you. But let me do that, get this new fuel pump on, and then we're going to get ready to drop the oil in this thing and put fresh oil and filter on it, and then we're going to see if we can fire this thing up. It's time to get to work. It's time to get the shot. See you in a few minutes. Okay, now here is the fuel line that I got to hook up. Right here to right over here. So not a big deal there of just hooking on fuel line and whatnot. But again, it's a case of I can't hold the camera and put the fuel line on at the same time. So you'll get to see me do the fuel lines on the top of the car. But I wanted to show you what we had going on. And you can see that nice, clean, shiny fuel pump we put on last week. I had to pick up supplies because all the fuel lines blew out on this thing when I was getting ready to want to test it. So we'll go ahead, we'll get these new fuel lines on, and then we'll see what we can do about firing this thing off. The idea today is to get it running, and then when Winnie gets out of work and comes over to help me, we want to bleed the brakes and make this thing run, drive, steer, and stop. So let me go ahead and get this done, and then I'll see you up topside. All right, I cleaned up the ends on the sending unit real quick where the electrical power goes into. I'm going to see if anything happens with that. And not even really empty on this thing, and I know there's gas in it, so oh, she's trying. She wants it. All right, let me see what I can do here. Give this a go again, see what happens. Now what's going on? All right, still not getting gas. Let's turn that off. Disconnect the battery. That sending unit is shot. That's all there is to it. Everything else I tried failed. Disconnect the battery. And now we're going to try something else. We're going to go ahead and we're going to work on maybe getting some rotors on this thing. So let me take care of the battery here. I want to disconnect that because this way it doesn't go dead if it gets left for an extended period of time. Oh, what a bummer. I mean, this engine sounds so strong, and we just can't get her to take fuel. It's no doubt about it, the fuel sending unit is the problem. So I'll put this back together. Because you can't lose your parts if your parts are already where they belong and already fastened on. All right, good deal. Okay, let's have our jack stands and get this front end up in the air, get these tires off. Let's get some rotors put on this thing. To complete the fuel system rebuild on the Thunderbird, and I couldn't do it with one hand and film with the other, so I had to unfortunately do it without filming. But this is the new fuel sending unit that the car required, and now that we have the fuel sending unit in the car, we should be able to go ahead and connect the connection on it, put the hose on it, and hopefully we should be able to get this car to fire off on its own and run on its own gas tank instead of off of a gas can. We're going to put this thing back together again. Time to get shot. Okay. Every rubber line on this car is new. All the metal lines were inspected and found to be in good shape, so we blew them out with compressed air. And I think we're in good shape here for getting this put back together again. I got to work with this fuel line a little bit here, get this, and then put the clamp on it. So give me a minute, I'll get this back on, I'll show you the final result. Makes me jealous of the people who have lifts. On the other hand, the fact that I did it without a lift and doing it in the backyard without even working in the garage, that satisfaction will overcome that every time. Give me a sec. Alright, we got the fuel line on the car. Right now we're just trying to put the connector on it, and it looks like we're going to have a little bit of an issue here because the connector is upside down on the fuel setting unit from the plug. But I'm going to see if I can't maneuver this around a little bit and try to get this to plug in. Give me a minute with this, and let's see what we can do. Maybe, hopefully you can see what I'm looking at. Alright, I'm going to spin the sending unit a little bit and see if that helps. Give me a minute. Alright, now that we got the bottom of the car taken care of, as far as getting the lower fuel line addressed, it's time to take care of the top one. Now up here I'll be able to help take care of that better, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to split this piece of fuel line in half so that I can put my fuel filter on. And then we're going to see about putting everything back together and see when we get this thing to fire off. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start off by cutting the fuel line, the piece we need. I got to add about an inch or so to this because of the fact that when I took the old one off, when it disintegrated, it actually shortened up. So I got to turn around and I got to make this a little bit bigger and then split it in half. And we should have plenty of fuel line to take care of what we need to do. There's this cut, and then we can go ahead and, I know you can't see me right now on the camera, you're looking at the engine of the car, but we're going to be getting ready to put this all together here in just a minute. Alright. What we're going to do with these two pieces of fuel line, we're going to put this fuel filter on it, and we're going to go ahead and put the whole line in one piece, pre-assembled, onto the engine. One side to the carburetor, one side to the fuel line. Then I'm going to hook up the coil wire back to the coil, because of the fact I had to take that off to get to the fuel line easier. And after that, we're going to get ready to see if we can't get this car to fire up. Now, even though the old clamps that were on it look like they were in good shape, the fact of the matter is they're old. They're 45 years old, I believe, and I don't want to play games with that, especially with a fuel system. So we'll go ahead with the fuel line put on here. Watch your arrows. That's going to, the arrow goes to the carburetor. Make sure you do that all times. Make sure you get that right. We got our clamps on here. I'm using a high fuel pressure, fuel injection style hose clamp on this because it's the old epitome where they say a 100 horsepower tool doing a 200 horsepower job will fail. A 400 horsepower tool doing a 200 horsepower job will get the job done every time without issue. So I'd rather go a little overkill than take chances that don't need to be taken, especially for something like this, because this whole fuel system repair kit, the fuel pump, the lines, the filter, the clamps, only came out to $28. $28 is too cheap of a price to pay to take chances with your car. Get this one on here. This way you have the fuel filter secured to the fuel lines. Then we'll put the other clamps on and get everything hooked up. Get everything all secured properly. And then we'll put the coil wire back on the coil. And then we're going to try to start this car. I'm using a clear filter like this because I want to see what kind of sediment's in the gas tank. And they're cheap enough that I can replace a few of these to get the fuel system cleared out. So, as I said, it's things like this are too cheap to worry about skipping over just to save $1 here or $1 there. It's just not worth it. Now you'll also notice I'm starting to tighten the clamp down a little bit before I even have it on the car. That's simply just to seat the clamp so it doesn't fall off while I'm working on it. Tighten that up a little bit more. Too prone to fall off for us still. Fall off at least. Again, seat the clamps on the line so that they don't fall off while you're working with them. The fuel line, the carburetor, the fuel pump all have a flange on it that I'm going to have to work the fuel line on kind of aggressively, because this helps the fuel line from falling off even if a clamp should fail. And it's going to be a bit of a bear to get this on here, but it's going to be worth it in the end. A few extra minutes doing this with good quality components and you will be in great shape with your car, especially when you're running a classic like this. Manipulate this back on here. I got too much fuel line on here. Okay, I got too much fuel line on here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to leave it clamped on. I'm going to leave it on the carburetor, and I'm going to take it off the fuel filter, and I'm just going to trim down the fuel line. That's going to be the easiest way to do this because it'll take less effort to do this. I actually have enough fuel line on here from the fuel filter to the carburetor that I can actually go direct from the fuel filter from the fuel to the fuel line, the metal fuel line on the car, not to be confused with the rubber fuel line I'm replacing. This on here, get this tightened down. A little bit more. Put up there a little bit. There's a line here that I don't want to cut. Got a vacuum line. That vacuum line could cause a number of engine running drivability problems, and the clamp was going to rub right against it, so I just simply slide the clamp down a little bit. Problem solved. Okay. Now I'll pull the fuel filter off of here again. I'm going to reverse this clamp too to get it away from these wires to the coil. Or to just simply slide it upward. But right now, let's just get this fuel filter off of here. I can trim this line down because it's too long. I didn't have the straightest cut, so I'm going to have to clean this up a little bit. Let's see that again. There it is. Can't reach it. Oh, there it is. Okay, this isn't going to be fun. I'll be back with you guys in a few minutes. Okay, I'm back. Head hose clamp disappears, so I grabbed another one. And now we're going to take this piece of fuel line off of here because it's too long. And this is my first choice of way of doing things, but this is what we need to do to get the job done. Another slice. There we go. This is going to be fun. Nope, not at all. But it'll be worth it. I think we got other problems here we're going to have to do here. Looks like I'm going to have to adjust this. I'm going to have to cut this. So, the fuel filter has an added ridge on it that's too long. And I'm going to have to cut that so I can get it to fit. And make your life easier when you have to do something like this, roll the filter. So you only have to cut on one side because it'll actually cut quicker and more safely that way. There we go. And I'll just clean the edges up on it. Make sure there's no burrs. And back on she goes. I'm going to do the routing. Got the filter there in place. Set my clamp to make it easy access. Slide the clamp over where I need it. Grab the other clamp here, put that on the fuel line. So which way is the best way to put it. And then get that out of there, get that there. Get the fuel line, the rubber fuel line onto the metal fuel line. Yes. I like it too. Oh, God. Get this thing right in here. Sometimes you got to pull out a little extra persuasion. If it comes down to doing something like that, be careful with how you're doing it, but so you don't tear apart what you're working on. But sometimes that extra leverage comes in really handy. All right, we're good now. So, get the hose clamp on this tightened up. Then I'm going to readjust a few of the other hose clamps a little bit so that they don't have any kind of an issue with arcing off spark plug wires and stuff like that and cutting spark plug wires, because these are a heavy duty set of 8mm Duraspark wires. They're a very, very good quality wire, and I don't want anything to happen to them. Get these all tightened up. Just about done here. Okay, I think that should do it. Let's put the plug wires back on it. Here it is. There we go. All right. Sure all the wires are on tight. Everything looks good. I have to give it a little prime. I think it's time to see if this thing is going to fire off. Something to prime off of. Let's see what we got. We have problems. You see what we got going on here, maybe. Oh, we got problems there. Nothing. Okay. This is my... Apparently we got a draw on the battery, and the battery is absolutely dead. So, I'll be back later. We're going to charge the battery, see if we can come up with something better. Talk to you guys in a little while. Alright, we got the new fuel pump on the car. We replumbed the fueling system. We replaced the sending unit, and now she's running on her own. And she sounds healthy. Listen to this. Lena wants to live. Lena's gonna live. We're losing too much daylight to continue working on her right now. That fuel sending unit gave me some trouble. But at the same time, we got it running. Now she runs on her own. Her system's primed. She's ready to go. I can't wait to send this to the family to hear this thing running on its own for the first time in a number of years. I believe it was 7 years, they said. Tomorrow, we're going to jack it up and pull the 4 wheels off, tires off of it, and we're going to bleed the brakes. That's the game plan, weather permitting. As I said before, and it takes us a while to get to work on the car because we have to work with the weather. The fact that the car is about 18 miles away from where I live, and I'm working outside. But with a complete new fuel system in it, now she's a runner and a driver. This is very, very exciting. There we go. Rinsing at her for smoke you see is burn off from when I changed the oil and I filled oil. Some of it spilled. That'll clear up in time. But she's running. She's a runner. Lena, it's going uphill from here, baby. Smells healthy. Yeah, she sounds healthy. She smells healthy. She is healthy. Like I said, all we got is residual oil from when it got spilled, it overflowed and spilled a little bit, burning off. But aside from that, she's good to go. Alright, like I said, we're going to go ahead, we're going to cut it for now. But we're going to get the brakes split tomorrow, hopefully, and see if we can lot move this thing. All right, everybody, have a good one.